Please welcome to the stage Dr. Yury Gogotsi, Director at Drexel Nanomaterials Institute at Drexel University.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon session after the coffee break. I see people are still coming in and joining. I'm a material scientist and material chemist, and I'm delighted to open this Matterverse section of the conference here. And I'm going to talk about nanomaterials, assembled multifunctional nanomaterials. For thousands of years, the progress of the humankind depends on availability of tools. People used to carve something out from stone, then bronze and iron moved us to the Iron Age. We're living in the Silicon Age now. But still, to produce chips, we slice ingot, dice wafers, etch structures out of silicon here. So for many, many centuries, people have been using materials available to them, and the progress in materials determines the progress of every other technology, pretty much. And we have been looking for the best materials available for the job. The situation is changing nowadays. You might have attended the 2D materials panel in the room next door before the break, discussing availability of variety of 2D materials. So what we have now are numerous two-dimensional materials. I look at them as building block for the future technologies. Look at them as bricks or stones that you can use to build new materials. Not materials with properties given us by nature or a single composition, but programmable materials. Materials with combination of properties that don't exist in nature. And this is what I am very confident will take us really to the new age of assembled materials, moreover, assembled multifunctional materials. Because by doing this assembly from 2D building blocks, we can bring together properties which are incompatible in any single material. Moreover, we can assemble them from solution, which is a major advantage. Everyone talks about green technology nowadays. And in many cases, we can assemble them from aqueous solution, from pure water. And the goal is always to achieve properties or combination of properties and functionalities that we don't have today. This is what will allow us to move to future technologies, from electronics to healthcare to space exploration. Now, why now? There are two things that happen over the past decade or two. First, we have discovered a large number of nanomaterials. You have heard more than once about graphene at this conference. 20 years since discovery of graphene. Graphene opens the door to other materials. And there have been many dielectric materials, boron nitrides, clays, oxides, numerous semiconductors, dichalcogenides, for example, like molybdisulfide. In 2011, we discovered this new family of materials called MXenes, where M stands for a transition metal. So, wrong button, of course. But that's OK. It's probably time to move to the next slide. Where M stands for a transition metal. X is carbon or nitrogen. And we also put a T on top as surface terminations. Why it's important? These materials, majority of them, are really good metals with a high density of state at the Fermi level and high concentration of carriers. Recall that graphene often praised for its conductivity, zero bandgap semiconductors. So first condition has been fulfilled. We have dielectric, semiconducting, and semi-metallic and metallic materials. So all kind of electrical properties are available. The second condition that tells why now, why we are standing at the verge of this new materials age, is artificial intelligence. This is again what we have talked today. There are numerous materials, thousands have been predicted. Just take MXenes. This structure with two to actually 5, can be more, layers of transition metals that can come in simple structures or atomic sandwiches, one element on the surface, another in the middle. Or we can have alternating atomic columns of transition metals, or remove one of them and have materials with trenches on the surface. And of course, we can put at least a dozen of different surface terminations, halogens, chalcogens, oxygen, hydroxyl. Do a simple math. Take a dozen of transition metal, and lanthanides can be included nowadays, carbon, nitrogen, 4 basic structures at least. And you will end up with about 100 of possible composition. Add a dozen of surface termination, over 1,000 of stoichiometric composition just in the MXene system. And we can mix and match elements. We can make solid solution on M side or X side carbonitride, and up to 7 different elements into high entropy MXenes. So basically an infinity of materials. Navigating an infinite sea of just MXenes alone, it's impossible without computational science, without machine learning, artificial intelligence. And if we're talking about combining different materials, building of various building blocks, from boron nitride to graphene, to MXene, to dichalcogenides, and many others, it's certainly impossible to design the right materials without the science. But now, artificial intelligence, computational science is catching up. Materials are available. So we can move forward building this new materials world. And let me give you a few examples only of what these materials can do. And one of the probably most common and easiest one is talking about flexible, stretchable electronics. I've seen some people in this room already have cell phones that are flexible and foldable, and more is coming. But what is important? We had a panel also today before lunch about exponential materials. If we want to really change the world, we should not talk about linear improvement, about 5, 10, 15% of improvement in properties. We should talk about exponential improvements, order of magnitude, 2 order of magnitude growth. And just give you an example. We used titanium carbide MXene with collaborator from Seoul National Universities to replace ITO, indium tin oxide, in organic LEDs, OLEDs. And their goal was simply make it flexible because ITO cracks. But because in MXene we can tune the work function finally by changing surface termination, they were able to improve the luminance, brightness basically, by an order of magnitude. So we not only make them flexible, and nowadays also we make them stretchable, but also improve by an order of magnitude performance. Another example. Medicine, medical diagnostic, wellness, healthcare. You have already heard a couple of talks about sensing, about graphene tattoos and other stuff. You read a lot about work done probably at Northwestern, Stanford University, and discussion is ongoing whether it will take 5 or 10 years to switch completely to all the diagnostic done remotely by epidermal sensors, breast sensor, others here. But what you see pretty much, all the sensors use gold. It's nice, the work, but you cannot provide 8 billion sensors to people around the world, and also many of them need to be probably living for a day or so. We need materials which are less expensive, materials which are available. Many of these MXenes I show you today can be made of most abundant element, titanium, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine, or sulfur on the surface. And moreover, titanium carbide MXene is not more conducting than gold, but if you use it as epidermal electronic for electromyography, encephalography, others, it actually outperforms gold because the impedance with skin and tissue is lower. So again, by using these new materials, we not only replace material, but we improve the performance and improve it very significantly. Another example. We just last week published a paper in my favorite journal, ACS Nano, about very low, anomalously low thermal conductivity of MXenes and violation of the Franz-Weidemann law. So what is interesting? Titanium carbide MXene has emissivity of polished metal, very, very low. So it means that infrared radiation will be reflected. There is no transfer of heat, radiative transfer of heat. But unlike metals, it has thermal conductivity about 2 to 3 orders of magnitude lower. As a result, imagine we can have a 200 nanometer film that drops the temperature in a steady state by about 100 degrees Celsius. Imagine every wall in this room, every car painted with a film. It's about 500 times thinner than a human hair film that can provide thermal insulation, prevent heat losses from inside, prevent heat or cold coming from outside. This can be a game changer that actually can save trillions of dollars because about 30% of all energy produced in the world is used by buildings, and about 1/3 of it goes for heating, air conditioning. And this is, again, not possible in metallic materials. If you have an insulator, you will have a thick layer of insulator and then reflecting metal. These materials can be ultra-thin, 100 to 1,000 times thinner than human hair, and provide complete thermal insulation. And one more example, flight. One of the panelists in the 2D materials panel today mentioned that he sees the future of 2D materials in electronic, but probably not in space, probably not in large scale. And I would respectfully disagree. Graphene is already produced in ton quantities in many places around the world. We produce up to kilogram MXene batches in our laboratory. A process of CVD synthesis of MXene from natural gas, titanium carbide MXene at least, from natural gas, and titanium chloride, which is a half product for synthesis of titanium. Titanium was produced last year about 3 million tons in China alone. So what it means that it's about the same temperature, about the same condition. Just replaced oxygen used to oxidize titanium tetrachloride with natural gas. We can produce millions of tons of this material. When assembled into films, titanium carbide shows just after drying a film from water, spreading colloidal solution, drying, strength of about good quality aluminum from 100 to 500 megapascals. But if you combine it with graphene, there was a paper earlier this summer from Ray Bachman and Xinfeng Fan from China. It's possible to achieve strengths of 1.8 gigapascal. This is twice the strength of steel, of materials produced at room temperature by spreading on the surface, reducing graphene oxide. It's a mix of graphene oxide and titanium carbide MXene, and cross-linking layers by organic molecule. We can make materials which is stronger than steel at room temperature. But what is also very important, this material is not only very strong, it's electronically conducting, and it is ionically conducting. Combination of properties that cannot be achieved in steel or any other metal. What does it mean? We can make a structural battery, a real one, which is ultra strong and store energy. When we inject ions, we can make electrochemical actuator if we design it such a way that one side expands larger than another. So we can actually have actuation. We can make a shape morphing wings. We can make drones flying really like birds, because before we knew the principle, electrochemical actuation worked. We had materials storing energy. We had strong materials, but never all of them together in one materials. And it's only achievable by assembling these multifunctional materials with this type of building blocks here. And there are many, many other potential applications. You may also ask, is it feasible? It's doable today. Is it cost effective? And the last example I'm going to give you before wrapping up is we published another paper just a few months ago showing that we can take waveguides for low Earth orbit satellites. These are basically metallic tubes of different shapes, sometimes twisted, sometimes complex shape, that connect the source of microwaves to antennas that satellites communicate with. They're made of metal, heavy. They cost from few $100s to many thousands of dollars for complex shape, and you need to machine the channel, which is very expensive. And scientists have been considering how to make them by 3D metal printing. What we showed with collaborator from University of British Columbia, we can take a piece of plastic, 3D printed from nylon, dip into MXene, and make a waveguide that performs at the same level as metal, 10 times lighter, and consumes about 10 milligrams of MXene for a standard 100-gram metallic waveguide, becoming 10-gram weight. Taking into account that lifting to the orbit costs between $10,000 to $20,000 per kilogram, we get a material that costs already device 10 times less at least than metallic analog, and save an extra 1,000 or 2 on lifting it off. So you can use it today at laboratory scale production and prices. So I think those are a few examples to show what new materials can do. And we are making first steps. But with all these materials available, with computational technique, including AI able to guide them, I think we are moving to a truly bright future, to the age of assembled multifunctional materials that I'm very confident will change pretty much every technology field, from electronics to healthcare to space explorations. And I'm pretty sure that to go interplanetary and even further interstellar, we need not just stainless steel tubes flying. We will be using multifunctional materials, much lighter, much stronger, providing radiation protection, providing energy storage, able to change the shape and properties as needed. And this is our future that we need to build together. Thank you very much for listening to me.